I sent $8 to help my parents repair the roof. 2 weeks later, my sister posted photos. A full renovation party. Everyone there but me. I said it was just for family. I smiled, logged in, and froze the account. By 1:11:1 morning. 51 missed calls. They were banging on my door. Saw. I regret every dollar I sent them. Not because I couldn't afford it. We were doing fine, but because in the end, my parents treated me like I was nothing more than a bank account. And maybe I was for a while. Maybe that's all I ever was. It started with a phone call from my mom. She sounded unusually sweet. Kind of voice she used back when I was little. And she wanted something done, quickly. Shape. My dad had climbed up there after a storm and nearly fell. There was talk of black mold, ruined insulation, water running down the walls. She made it sound like their house was falling apart. I asked if they had any quotes. She sent 2. Higher one was just under $8. I wired the money that afternoon. My husband didn't even blink. Do? He said. They're your parents. If they have, they're your parents. Need help. We help. I remember smiling at him, thinking how lucky I was to have someone who understood. We'd been careful with our money. And I genuinely believed this was an emergency. For a week I didn't hear much. My mom texted, once saying, "The guys are working on it. It's noisy." That was it. Then came the photos. Michelle, my sister, who never posts anything like ever, suddenly uploaded a full album on Facebook. She called it Finally Home. I clicked through, and my heart sank with each photo. They hadn't repaired the roof. They'd renovated the entire house. New siding, new porch, upgraded windows, fresh landscaping, even a brand new pool. Heater. There were potted plants, arranged like a showroom. Decorative lights wrapped around the newly installed deck railing, and a ridiculous fire pit surrounded by sleek patio furniture. It was like one of those after shots from a home makeover show. But that wasn't the worst part. They'd thrown a party. Tables with white cloths, trays of catered food, champagne, glasses, music. Everyone was there. Michelle, her husband, our cousins, our aunt and uncle, even the neighbors I'd recognized from childhood. Everyone, except me and my daughter, my 7-year-old, who still drew pictures of Nana and Papa's house. I scrolled through the comments. So beautiful. Can't believe the transformation. Looks like a magazine shoot. I felt sick. I messaged my mom, asked how the roof was holding up. She said, "Looks great. We're finally proud of our home again." That was it. No mention of the party. No mention of me. So I asked straight up. Her reply, "Oh, that was just for family." 4 words. Just for family. I sat there with my phone in my hand, feeling like someone had kicked me in the chest. My daughter came into the room asking what I was looking at. I closed the screen and told her I was reading the news. Then I walked to the office, logged into our shared account, and moved the entire $8 back into my Brait personal one. I didn't warn anyone. I didn't explain. I just took it. By the next morning, I had 51 missed calls. My mom, my dad, Michelle, 2 of my cousins, even texted me asking why I was being dramatic. Then came the pounding on the door. Heavy, urgent, like the house was on fire. I opened it. My mother was on her knees. I didn't expect her to actually fall to her knees. When I opened the door, she dropped like she'd been shot. Not one word. Just this loud, choked cry that echoed off the porch. Dad stood behind her, arms stiff at his sides, jaw clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Then came the shouting, but not from them. Across the street, Mrs. Aldridge called out, asking if everything was all right. Then, a screen door slammed open 2 houses down. Someone else peeked through their Sidian blinds. I felt like the entire neighborhood was tuning in to watch the show. She stole our money, my mom wailed. She took it back after we never trusted her. I couldn't even react. My first thought was my daughter. She was inside, probably watching this unfold from the window, hearing things no 7-year-old should be hearing from their grandmother. My husband appeared behind me, calm but visibly done with the drama. We exchanged a glance. He didn't have to say anything. I knew we couldn't leave her outside crying and screaming like that, turning our quiet street into an episode of some trashy reality show. So, I stepped aside. She crawled in, still sobbing. My dad followed without a word. We didn't offer drinks. We didn't sit. My husband stood behind me, arms folded while I faced them. That party, I asked. Why wasn't I invited? My mom sniffled, pulling tissues from her purse. Speech about how it wasn't meant to be a big deal, and that it was mostly neighbors and close family. I asked her what I was then. She ignored the question. Eventually, she admitted they never actually fixed the roof. Some neighbor patched it up for free. The $8 I gave them. They used it to put down on a renovation loan. New siding, new windows, outdoor upgrades. Just cosmetic. It was luxury. All based on a lie. You said Dad nearly fell off the roof, I said. She nodded. He did. I looked at my dad. He didn't even blink. It was slippery, he said. So, you guilt me into sending money, then used it to throw a party you didn't even invite us to. We didn't want to stress you out. My mom said like that made any sense. Then she changed her tone. Her voice dropped lower. She asked me to return the money, said the contractor was threatening legal action, that they were short, that they didn't have enough left to finish the second phase. I just stared at her. Then she pulled out an envelope from her purse and handed it to me like it was some sort of peace treaty. Inside was a wrinkled catalog, page with a toy circled in red marker, a massive dollhouse with lights and rooting furniture. The one my daughter had begged for all summer. It was in their car, she said. Already paid for. Bought it before all this mess. She deserves something nice. My mom said, "You shouldn't let this affect her." Everything in me not to laugh. Used my money to lie, throw a party, and now they were using my daughter to buy their way back in. She'll love it, I said. But you're still walking home. My dad finally spoke then. He asked if we were really going to throw them out, said it was late, that it was getting cold. You lived sane blocks away, I said, and you've done worse. They stood for a few seconds like they didn't believe me. Then they left. No goodbye, no apology, just silence. My daughter loved the dollhouse. Of course she did. She didn't understand what it represented, but I did. It wasn't a gift. It was bait, and they were about to learn I wasn't biting anymore. They'd take the hint that after everything, the lying, the guilt, tripping, the dollhouse bribe, they'd step back, lick their wounds, in their lane. They didn't. The silence lasted 9 days. Not even a full 2 weeks. On the 7th, I got a call from my aunt, my dad's sister. She opened with, "I heard there's been some tension," in that vague, nosy tone. That meant she already knew the entire story, or at least the version my mom fed her. I didn't bother explaining. Just said, I wasn't ready to talk. She said, well, she said, well, she said, well, she said, well, you know how your mom is. And left it there. That same night, I got a text from my mom. No greeting. Father hasn't eaten properly in days. I hope you're happy. I ignored it. Next morning, another one. Do you think your daughter even remembers us? Then, more a few hours later. I guess your husband's opinion matters more than your own now. That one got under my skin. They were testing the waters. Trying different angles. First guilt, then subtle attacks. Then, because of course she posted a photo of the dollhouse still in the box sitting in their garage with some soft lighting and a sad caption. Bought this for our little princess. Maybe one day she'll see it. Maybe one day her mother will let her. The comments rolled in. Kids always come back around. Grandparents are irreplaceable. Don't give up hope. She'll see what really matters. Michelle chimed in with a heart emoji. The same sister who hadn't even looked at me since college, unless she needed a babysitter. It was so transparently manipulative. It almost made me laugh. Almost. But then they started showing up. My dad ran into me at the grocery store, the one near my daughter's. school. He didn't even pretend it was a coincidence. Just stood by the frozen section, arms crossed, and asked if I was going to keep dragging things out. My mom appeared days later at the coffee shop by my office. She sat at the Gervit table next to mine, pretending to read a magazine until I looked up. Said loud enough for the barista to hear. "Are you really okay with your daughter growing up without grandparents?" I didn't answer, just walked out. The next day, I blocked both of them. That night, my mom left a voicemail from my aunt's phone. She said I'd changed, that ever since I married that man, I wasn't the same, that I'd become cold, disrespectful. Said I was letting my husband control me, that he was turning me against my blood. Then she said something that burned into my brain. When he leaves you, and trust me, he will still be here. We're the only ones who will love you after. It wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. She wanted me scared. Wanted to plant a seed of doubt just enough to make me second guesses myself. That maybe I had overreacted, that maybe I'd been too harsh. I played the voicemail for my husband. He listened to the whole thing, set my phone down, and said, "So, what are you going to do?" I stared at the wall for a few seconds. Not angry, just done. I'm going to show them what it looks like when I stop playing along. Daughter they could use. A daughter who would beg to be let back in, cry at the Selvin doorstep like my mom had done on mine. But I wasn't her, and they were about to find that out the hard way, I thought. Blocking their numbers would be the end of it. I was wrong. About a week after everything went quiet, my cousin Amy knocked on the door. She had a tray of lemon bars in her hands, and that stiff, a little smile she always wore when she was nervous. Amy's the kind of person who hates conflict so much she once cried during a Monopoly game. So, when I saw her standing there, I knew it wasn't just a friendly drop-in. I was in the fair area, she said. I let her in even, though I knew what was coming. She didn't make it sane steps into the house before she blurted it out. "They asked me to talk to you." There was. She sat down on the edge of the couch like she didn't want to get too comfortable, then started rambling about how things had gotten out of hand and how my mom and dad were really struggling. I didn't say anything. I just waited. Then she dropped the bomb. "They're thinking about selling the house." That snapped me to attention. Not because I cared about the house. It was theirs, and they could do whatever they wanted with it, but because I knew how much it meant to them. That place was their pride, their kingdom. They'd once yelled at me for trimming the hedges wrong when I was 12. Sewing it would be a last resort. Amy looked at her hands like she hated what she was about to say next. "Hoping you'll let them stay here, just until things calm down." At first, I thought she meant nearby a hotel, something temporary. But no, "In your house," she said, "in the guest room just for a little while." I laughed out loud. "They gave me the lemon bars to bring," she added. "Said you used to like them." I walked her to the door without another word, told her to take the tray with her. She did. Later that night, I called my dad's sister. My aunt has always stayed out of the family messes. Neutral ground. The one adult who never tried to guilt me into anything. Everything from the moment I sent the money to the moment my mother was on her knees on my porch. I didn't hold anything back. She was quiet for a long. She was quiet for a long. She was quiet for a long. She was quiet for a long time after I finished. Then she said, I had no idea they were doing all this to you. She said she'd been hearing a very different version of events. That I'd turned cold, that I was ashamed of my family, and that my husband was manipulating me. He sounded angry, not at me, but at them. She said she'd call a few of the others. He wanted the truth out. The next morning, I sent one final message to the family group chat. Short, blunt. I'm done. Consider me. Longer part of this family. Don't call. Don't come to my house. Don't write. I'm not your daughter. I'm not your sister. I'm nothing to you. This is the last message you'll ever get from me. Then I blocked every number, every account. A few days. Nothing happened. It was like they'd all finally gotten the message. I started to relax, even slept better. Then my husband called me into the kitchen. He was holding his phone with this look that told me something was off. He'd gotten a message request from an unfamiliar number. It was from Michelle, my sister, using a fake account. She said he needed to talk sense into me before I did something I couldn't take back. I deleted it and blocked her. The next day, my husband's old coworker texted him, said he'd seen my dad in person at his old job. Apparently, my father had shown up, unannounced, and started telling anyone who'd listened that I'd cut them off over a misunderstanding and that I was brainwashed. My dad hadn't worked there in insane years. He'd driven 30 meter just to corner people he barely knew anymore. I was beyond done. And then, just when I thought I'd seen it all, the contractor called me. Not an assistant. Billing department. Him. He said my parents gave him my number. I was handling the finances, that I'd delayed the last payment, and that if it didn't come through soon, legal action was possible. His tone was awkward, almost apologetic. I think even he realized he'd been dragged into something personal. I told him clearly, I'm not responsible. I gave them money for a roof. My problem. Do not contact me again. Apologized and hung up. I sat there, staring at my phone. Not angry, not hurt, just hollow. They drained everything, not just the money, but my trust, my patience, my dignity. And they were still reaching, still lying, still using my name to clean up their mess. That night, I opened a private email account I only used for important legal things. I changed my number the next day. I didn't tell anyone, except my husband and my aunt. They had turned me into a stranger. So that's what I became. It didn't feel dramatic. It didn't even feel like revenge. It felt like sealing a wound that refused to close. After I changed my number, the silence was loud but peaceful. No texts, no voicemails, no surprise visits. Cousins acting like messengers. It was like I'd flipped a switch and the entire side of my life that had drained me for years just shut off. My daughter asked about them once, just once, when she saw the dollhouse still set up in the corner of her room. "Will Nana come over again?" I said. "Not anymore." And she didn't ask again. But the real test came a few weeks later. It was a Sunday. I had just gotten back from the park with my daughter when my husband handed me a danger card that had been slipped under our front door. No postage, no envelope, just a folded piece of cardstock. On the front, it said, "Let's start over." Inside, it was handwritten. My mother's handwriting. Years of birthday cards and grocery lists made it impossible to mistake. She said she regretted how things played out but refused to apologize. She blamed miscommunication, said, "Every family goes through rough patches." And then, the kicker, she wrote, "You're still our daughter, whether you like it or not." That line sat with me like a stone in my throat. It wasn't love. It was ownership. A statement of control. I folded the card back up and threw it in the trash without saying a word. Later that week, I saw them again at the grocery store. They were in the produce aisle, casually, talking to one of my daughter's friends, parents. Laughing. I steered the cart away and went around the other side. But they saw me. My mom followed us out into the parking lot. I loaded the groceries while she stood a few feet away, just watching. Then she said, "You're going to regret this." I didn't answer. "You think you're strong now, but wait until he leaves you. We both know he will." My daughter was in the back seat hearing all of it. I closed the trunk, got in, and drove away. That night, I called my aunt again. I told her what happened. He didn't hesitate. "You should cut them off. Completely. No more chances. You don't owe them anything." For a while, I thought maybe I was being too harsh, that maybe I could find a way to make peace without letting them back in. It was my aunt who reminded me of something I hadn't considered. They never asked what they did to hurt you. They just want access again. He was right. They didn't want forgiveness. They wanted proximity. They wanted control. So, I did what I had to. Contacted my lawyer and took my parents off everything. Medical power of attorney, emergency contact forms, old documents. They were listed on from when I was in college. Everything. Even changed the name on my daughter's school pickup list just in case. And then I wrote one last letter. I mailed it to their house. I know they got it because Michelle posted some passive-aggressive meme days later. In the letter, I wrote, "You no longer have a daughter. You made that choice when you lied, manipulated, and humiliated me. I don't hate you. I just don't believe in continuing to bleed for people who cut me on purpose. Hear from me. As far as I'm concerned, never existed to you. Please return the favor. I signed it, sealed it, mailed it. Didn't take the letter quietly. I expected silence. I got chaos. First came the FaceTime call from an unknown number. Then came 3 emails to my work account, which I hadn't shared with any of them. All blank, except for subject lines like "We raised you better and you're making a mistake." I didn't respond. I forwarded everything to HR, and it told them I was being harassed by arranged family members. They flagged the emails and restricted any further messages from those domains. The next day, a manila envelope showed up in my mailbox. No return address, no postage, hand delivered. Inside were printed photos of me and my daughter, taken from Facebook. One had a note, scribbled in the corner, "You're keeping from us." My hands actually shook. I'm not proud of that. I'd stood my ground for months, cut them off completely, told myself I was untouchable. But that showing up at my home using my child crossed a line that shook me to my core. I installed cameras that night. Front door, backyard, garage. I called the police the next day, filed a harassment report, not because I thought they'd do anything, but to have it on record just in case. I thought they'd back off after that. They didn't. Michelle started tagging my first daughter in old post, baby pictures, holiday dinners. A photo of my mom holding my daughter on her first Christmas. She was so loved. She just doesn't know it anymore. Then came another one, clearly aimed at me. Funny how some people scream boundaries just to cover up their guilt. When that didn't get a go reaction, she started following my husband's colleagues. Then she followed my daughter's school on Instagram. I reported every account, blocked everything. Then my daughter came home from school one day with a folded note in her backpack. Signature. But I recognized my mom's handwriting the moment I opened it. Real. Families forgive. You'll thank me one day. I saw red. I called the school immediately, scheduled a meeting, brought the note. I wasn't calm. Was clear. They were not to speak to my parents under any circumstances. And any circumstances. Further attempts to contact my daughter would result in legal action. I had already downloaded and pre-filled a restraining order form. The principal said she understood. After that, I pulled my daughter from After Air and switched up her pickup routine, different entrance, different teacher. I hated how much they were affecting her world. Hated that I had to rebuild our lives just to keep them out of it. And still, for a while, I waited for the tire's next hit. Another note. Appearance. Another coincidence at the grocery store, but it never came. Passed. Then months. Nothing. The silence felt fake at first, like the pause before something breaks. Slowly, it began to settle into something else. Something real peace. No calls, no messages, no strange accounts, just absence. Something. For the first time since I was a teenager, I felt like myself. The version of me they wanted. Quiet. Generous. Even when it hurt. Kissing me, I started laughing more, sleeping better. My daughter stopped, asking about them. Not because I told her to forget them, but because kids feel what's safe, and she didn't feel them anymore. I kept the cameras up, though. I still look through the peephole before opening the door. I still pause when I see a car I don't recognize parked too long near the house. That part might never fully go away. But the difference now is I'm not waiting for them. I don't want an apology. I don't want reconciliation. I don't want them to learn a lesson or come crawling back or beg me to reconsider. I'm past all of that. They're not a part of my life. Not because I walked away, but because they shoved me out and then tried to pretend they didn't. And I'm never going back. If they ever show up again, they'll be met with silence, with legal action, if needed, but never with forgiveness. Not for this. Not for what they did to me. Not for what they tried to do to my long daughter. Some people don't get a second chance, no matter who they are. Dead. Gone. And this time, it's for good. The final update. Thought it was over. I genuinely believe they had finally let it die. Then I got the letter. It wasn't dropped off. It wasn't handwritten. It came through certified mail. My name on the front. My actual legal name. Not a nickname. Not Sweetie or Pumpkin like they used to call me. It was the kind of envelope that makes your stomach drop before you even open it. Inside, a legal god notice. They were suing me, not for defamation, not for harassment. They were trying to reclaim the ACT dollar, according to the document, claiming I had gifted them the money under false pretenses, and that reclaiming it later through the shared account had violated a verbal agreement. I laughed when I first read it. Actually, laughed. Then it turned into this kind of breathless, stunned silence. Because it was real. They'd gone so far into the fantasy of their victimhood that they thought this would work. My husband stood there reading over my shoulder. He didn't say anything at first. Then he asked, "Do you want to destroy them?" I said, "I want to finish this." So we got a lawyer. And to my surprise, I wasn't the only one preparing for this. The aunt I had confided in, she came forward with texts, screenshots, voicemails. My cousin Amy, she gave a full statement about how they tried to use her to deliver the guilt and how she was manipulated into doing it. Even the contractor, the same one they dragged into this months ago, agreed to write a Calendar 9, our statement clarifying I was never involved in the renovation deal, that my name had only come up when they refused to pay. Piece by piece, they buried themselves. The case was dismissed in less than sane minutes. Judge didn't even want to sign. Let it go to trial. Called it a gross misuse of legal resources and warned them they were bordering on frivolous litigation, and that should have been the end of it. But no. My mom stood up in a court in a public courtroom and shouted, "She's not our daughter anymore. She doesn't deserve what we gave her." And, for the first time in my life, I smiled in front of her because she said it out loud. What I already knew, loved me. Not really. She loved the version of me that served her. Obeyed, paid up, stayed small, and now she hated me for outgrowing that version. After that day, I never heard from them again. No more letters, no messages, no fake profiles, no people accidentally bumping into me. It's been 8 months. My daughter is thriving. My marriage is stronger than ever. We bought a new house last month. A fresh start under a new roof. Without a single crack. They could slip through. I didn't tell a soul in the family, not even the aunt. Helped me. I needed it to be ours completely. And as for the $8, we donated it to a nonprofit that provides safe housing for women leaving abusive homes. My husband and I signed the check together, my name on the memo line, in honor of the people who taught me everything I don't want to be. That was the last chapter, the final word. They wanted me to regret cutting them off. They wanted me to feel small without them. Instead, I got bigger. They thought they could ruin me, but they ended up setting me. So, wer war Mama? Sie hatte das Haus gekauft. Die Nachricht war einfach. Ich habe es geschafft. Der Kaufvertrag ist abgeschlossen. Ich ziehe in 2 Wochen ein. Du musst nicht helfen, aber ich würde gerne für dich kochen, sobald ich mich eingelebt habe. Starrte die Nachricht lange an, dann antwortete ich. Ein Abendessen. Mehr Verspreche, denn Abendessen. Ich nicht. Ein paar Tage später kam ein weiterer Brief. Dieser war nicht von Caleb. War von Jenna. Unterschrieben. Keine Zeichnungen, keine passiv-aggressiven Seitenhiebe zwischen den Zeilen, nur eine ganze Seite Klarheit. Sprach von Scham. Davon, wie mit ansehen musste, wie Caleb fast gestorben wäre, und davon, dass die einzigen, die sich gemeldet hatten, nicht sie oder Alex, Mama waren, sondern ich. Sie sagte sie. Sie hasste mich, nicht weil ich grausam war, sondern weil ich immer freundlich war und ihr dadurch klar wurde, wer sie nicht war. Sie schrieb, ich weiß, dass du mir nichts schuldest. Ich musste das einfach sagen, bevor ich aufhöre, irgendetwas als Gegenleistung zu erwarten. Ich habe nicht geantwortet, aber den Brief behalten. Kurz vor Mamas Umzug bekam ich noch eine Nachricht von Caleb. Hallo Sarah. Mama sagt, ich kann dich zu etwas einladen. Wir machen ein Familienessen, ein richtiges. Kein Geschrei, kein komischer Hackbraten. Mama meinte, sie würde sogar die guten Teller benutzen. Du kannst Nein sagen, aber ich hoffe, du tust es nicht. Die Worte, ein richtiges Essen blieben mir I am Gedächtnis. Danielle zog eine Augenbraue hoch, als ich es ihr sagte. Du vertraust ihnen, dass sie nicht implodieren? Nein, aber ich vertraue mir selbst, dass ich rausgehe, wenn sie es tun. Also ging ich hin. Es war von Anfang an seltsam. Mama öffnete die Tür und umarmte mich tatsächlich. Nicht so eine kalte, performative Geste, sondern ein unangenehmes, echtes Drücken, das sagte, ich gebe mir Mühe. Drinnen saß Jenna schon am Tisch und half beim Anrichten des Essens. Richtiges Essen, kein Fertiggericht oder Tiefkühlpizza. Brathähnchen, Salat, richtiges Gemüse, das nicht aus der Dose kam. Und Caleb, er rannte herbei und reichte mir eine dreieckig gefaltete Serviette. Ich habe dir einen Platz gemacht, Karte, sagte er. Da steht dein Name und alles. Ich setzte mich hin und erwartete Spannung, wartete auf Sarkasmus, darauf, dass jemand ausrastete, dass der alte Rhythmus zurückkehrte, aber das taten sie nicht. Wir sprachen über ganz normale Dinge. Ich fragte Caleb nach der Schule. Er erzählte mir, dass er jetzt Kunst mochte. Jenna erwähnte, dass sie ein Heideses Vorstellungsgespräch in einer örtlichen Bibliothek hatte, nur Teilzeit. Aber mit Studium, Mom sagte, sie versuche es mit einer Wandergruppe für Leute, die vergessen haben, wie man Freunde hat. Am Ende des Essens reichte mir Jenna eine kleine Schachtel. Sie war nicht eingepackt, nur zugeklebt. Ich öffnete sie langsam. Familienfoto, das ich immer geliebt hatte. Das von uns allen am See, als wir Kinder waren. Ich hielt Caleb the First. I am. Hintergrund, obwohl er noch nicht einmal geboren war. Mom sagte, es sei das einzige Exemplar. Sie wollte, dass ich es habe. In der Schachtel war noch etwas. Neuen Haus, falls du mal vorbeikommen willst, sagte Mom. Oder gehen willst. Keine Bedingungen, nur, dass es auch dir gehört. Wenn du willst sein. Ich sagte lange nichts, aber ich blieb für Kaffee, Kuchen, für einen Moment, der sich endlich Familie anfühlte. Und vielleicht war das nach allem das wahre Ende. Kein perfektes, nur ein mögliches,